Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, and your existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I am here with another John Campea Show companion video. John has graciously allowed me to do another one of these. You know, I think I have a little bit too much fun doing these. John lets me do them. I really have a good time. So I'm just going to jump right into it and get to your questions. The first is one of two from Anonymous. Anonymous says, hey, John, this year will mark 35 years since the 1986 Transformer film, It Had the Power, was released in cinemas. Did you ever see this film on the big screen? And what was thoughts on it as a whole, along with the backlash that it got for the violence that was shown in it? And do you think the backlash was justified by parents, mostly mothers at that time? Also, do you believe that there is a chance that Hasbro will give it a 35th anniversary 4K Blu-ray release? I mean, even with just the Blu-ray, it looks good on a 4K TV. Woo! Anonymous, that's a lot. Well, I have to say, to be totally honest, I did see Transformers the movie in theaters. And to be honest even more, it was the only Transformers I had seen. I've seen very little of the Transformers animated series, any of them, but I did see that movie, and I actually I liked it. You know, I didn't know much about what was going on, but hey, you know, a planet-sized Transformer, come on. The idea of Unicron, I liked all that, and the voice cast was pretty great. And I thought it was a great science fiction action adventure, and I liked it. And I enjoyed it, and as I said, I had not watched the shows. I kind of was biased against Transformers because when they first came out, they were using repackaged toys from other Japanese shows that rubbed me the wrong way. Like there was some Robotech stuff in there, and like the first release, I don't know if it was Starscream or who it was, but I'm like, wait a minute, that's a repackaged Robotech toy. So I never got into Transformers, but I did see the movie, and I liked it. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they gave it a 4K release, although I doubt they will. Hey, we got a Blu-ray, so that's pretty good. I want to thank you for writing in. In terms of you know what, parents, why get mad? I don't understand. There's too much violence in it. Look, man, it's about fighting robots. I know some of them died, but hey, it's not like it's Friday the 13th or something. I just think parents were the mothers were a little too sensitive. Don't they realize that we as young men want to watch massive robot destruction, and it really isn't going to leave us scarred later in our lives? So, but yeah, I wasn't really aware of the controversy surrounding it because I didn't pay much attention, but I did like it. I liked Transformers the movie. Kung Fu Hot Dog sends in a tip and says, hi, John, did you see the dislike ratio for Kathleen Kennedy's speech on the official Oscars YouTube channel? It does appear the Gina Carano backlash is severe. But hey, we still have Sasha Banks, Katie Sackhoff, Ming-Na Wen, and Rosario Dawson. It was funny. Yeah, you know, look, I am a Kathleen Kennedy supporter. I mean, she produced half the cool movies of my youth, beginning with E.T., and while we might not have liked the way the Star Wars films have been handled, she was put into a tough spot with Disney. And I think that a lot of the choices, you can't go and talk about strong women in the film industry the same week you fire Cara Dune from The Mandalorian. I mean, you get rid of someone like Gina Carano who defines strong women. And yet, apparently, you're only going to support strong women that think exactly the way you do. Well, isn't the definition of a strong woman that she has her own opinions and she's not going to kowtow to anyone else for any other reason? So it was unfortunate what happened, and I was surprised they let it go on. I mean, look, Kathleen Kennedy is always going to be a revered figure in the entertainment business, and we as fans and pundits have to remember that she's had an amazing career and she is worthy of our respect. But I think that probably wasn't the best thing to do. It was a bummer. Butters sends in a tip and says, hi, John and Rob. Greetings from Hobart, Tasmania. With Fast 9 right around the corner, it has me curious as to where you both see the franchise when weighing it up against the best movie franchises of all time. P.S. Shout out to my best mate, Matt Smash. Well, you know what, Butters? Of course, I am an unabashed lover of the Fast and the Furious franchise, but I see it as a glorified B-movie franchise. I mean, I love it. I think Fast Five is the best of the bunch of the films. I really enjoy that movie. But I certainly don't think it holds a candle, even though there's now 10 movies. If you include Hobbs and Shaw and the upcoming The Fast Saga, it doesn't stand up to something like Lord of the Rings. Only because I don't think it has the same kind of, it doesn't hit you in the soul the way Lord of the Rings does or Star Wars does. But it's still, it's sort of unto itself. I think it's a damn fine franchise. And I can't wait to see Justice for Han. Dean Dillon sends in a tip, one of two. Hey, John, just came across a video from a YouTube channel called Film Gob. That was about yourself. Hey, it was taking the piss out of you, and the video was put up 20 hours ago. And what do you think of Blackheart showing up in WandaVision as the main bad guy? Dean Dillon, that was one of two. Where did you say? I'm looking. Oh, maybe we'll get to it. That's two of. Oh, there it is. I see. Well, first of all, Film Gob has a long history of. Look, I've been made fun of by Film Gob. You know, I think sometimes I understand what he's trying to do, but how can I fundamentally, I mean, if that's what he wants to do, I think we're all adults. We can take the slings and arrows. And when you go onto YouTube and you go out into the public and you speak your mind, these things happen. I give it up for Film Gob, though, because he does put these videos together in a very entertaining way. I mean, I've myself been the butt of some of his videos, and that's okay. That's fine. So you got to take the piss. I mean, if you can't take it, you can't dish it out, right? And I don't think Blackheart is going to be the main villain on WandaVision. I don't think it's going to happen. K Major says, John, I know what would solve the fandom theories and soften the blow at the end of the season. Have Doctor Strange show up and tell Monica and Wu that there's 4,360 scenarios and only one where they survive without killing Wanda. Actually, would Doctor Strange be able to do the whole look ahead now that he doesn't have the time stone? You know what? That remains to be seen. I don't know what's up with that. Where is Doctor Strange without the time stone? I don't know. K Major goes on to say, John, I'm in trouble. I've been drinking Zevia for close to a year because of you. Cola flavor rocks. My wife has been making fun of me for drinking it. Well, now she finally tasted it, and now I got cases of cola flavor and lemon lime flavor all over the place. Thanks a lot. Well, K Major, you know, we do know what's best on this show, and when you taste that Zevia across your lips, man, woo, yeah. It's good stuff. I like it too. K Major goes on to say, John, I'm very disappointed in you. Why haven't you been discussing the coming of the live-action Powerpuff Girls series on the CW? Are you not excited to see Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup fighting crime in the city of Townsville? Well, you know, I'm gonna speak for John here. I think we're all gonna have to wait and see. It might very well be a genius show, maybe something along the lines of Riverdale, something I can't believe how they've made me really care about the Powerpuff Girls, but we'll see how it works. I like the design of the original Powerpuff Girls. How's that going to work in live action? I don't know. I'm there for it. I'll watch. K Major continues. I appreciate the support, K. John, that tip is worth seeing your face while you read the Powerpuff question. Oh, I'm sorry he didn't. I'm sorry he didn't get to read it. I couldn't care less about the property, dude. Laugh out loud. Happy WandaVision Eve. Everyone be excellent to each other. Have an awesome day. Well, thanks, K Major. And again, thank you for the support. Austin sends in a tip and says, first time tipper. My question is, do you see value in more theatrical content, straight plays, musicals being brought to streaming services like Hamilton? Also for fun, what is your worst idea for making an already known IP or movie into a musical? Ooh, Austin, that's a good question. I do see value in filming plays and making them, whether it's streaming or released theatrically. I think when plays are filmed really, really well, it's definitely worthwhile and something that I'm there for. I think that we should do more of it, actually. The worst idea for making an already known IP or movie into a musical. Well, you know, there's been Evil Dead the musical. There's a Reanimator musical. There's all kinds of musicals like that. So I think you can turn any IP into a musical. If you really want to see something funny, there's a movie, and this is a real movie, that stars Craig Schaefer and Pia Zadora, called Voyage of the Rock Aliens. I kid you not. I don't know. Speaking along those lines, maybe turn Alien itself into a musical. And of course, the alien would have to have a musical number. Kind of harks back to Ice Pirates, if you've ever seen that. I think it'd be good. Sir Ivan Bennett sends in a tip and says, "Hey, John, can't stand you dissing Marvel movie theme music. Yes, for a long time they sucked, but once Feige was in control, he made it a point to hire better composers. Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Homecoming, Ant-Man. Yes, Ant-Man have... Where are you? Or is that down here? Let's see. I don't know if... Oh, have great catchy music by Ludwig Göransson, Michael Giacchino, and Christoph Beck. The Avengers theme by Alan Silvestri is 2 minutes of badassery, so much so it's in my head whenever I step out the door. The only reason DC has great music is that it's... Where are you as I go up here? Only because of Hans Zimmer. His music is John Williams level, but Aquaman's theme sucks. Suicide Squad sucks. Shazam sucks. Harley Quinn or Justice League sucks. All this is to say Zimmer is great, but don't sleep on the upcoming stuff at Marvel. Look, I'm a fan. I loved Alan Silvestri's Endgame score. I thought it was terrific. And I agree with you. I think there's been a lot of great Marvel music. The Black Panther score is amazing. And I agree with you. Ant-Man, yes, Ant-Man is great too. I was going to show you my Ant-Man hot toy, but I've got stuff on it, so I can't. But I'm with you there. I agree with you. I think, John, you're a song and dance man. You should respect the power of Marvel music more than you do. Smokey McPot sends in a tip, 1 of 4. Hi, John. Been watching since the days of AMC, and I listen to you every day while at work. I have a WandaVision theory. After Endgame, Wanda wanted to see Vision, and after eventually finding him in pieces at S.W.O.R.D., realized he couldn't be brought back. And then one thing leads to another, and with the help of someone else, possibly Agatha Harkness, creates the Hex. I think the Hex is the door to one of the multiverses, or it straddles 2 universes, so you can enter from either side. On the other, the X-Men are alive and well, and Peter is amongst them. Professor X is aware of what is happening inside the Hex because of Cerebro, so Peter is sent in to act as her brother and find out how Wanda did it so they can figure out how to shut it down. This would explain why she is confused and surprised to see him, and despite not being her real brother, he knows the answer to some of her questions because Professor X is telling him via Cerebro. Thanks, John, and keep bringing the filthy. Interesting, Smokey, but I gotta say, I don't buy it. I don't buy it only because I think you're putting too much emphasis on the X-Men universe. I think that this is an MCU thing. It's an MCU story, and I don't think they would lean that heavily into the X-Men. But that said, we still have Evan Peters, and snoopers be snooping. So I don't know what to tell you about that. It's going to be really interesting. How do they explain his presence? That's the thing I'm most interested in the upcoming 2 episodes. We shall see. Richard M. says, "Hi, John. First time chipping in, but I'll get right to it. Everyone wants Reed Richards to be the aerospace engineer, but I'd like to offer a suggestion I haven't seen around much. Blue Marvel. He's both a physicist and an engineer and has a thing with Monica Rambeau in the comics, and one of his abilities include bioluminescence, which would tie in with the name and theme of Monica becoming Photon later on. Thoughts or opinions?" You know, Richard, I've heard a lot of people say this, put that forward. I just think he's not that well known. I think, again, by bringing in a character like that, there's too much backstory that you have to provide for a new character, and with only 2 episodes of WandaVision left, I don't know if they would do that. But then again, maybe they would. I don't know. We shall see. Noah Rogers sends in a tip and says, "Hey, John, been watching since the early Movie Talk days, and I love your show. I'm currently rewatching the MCU movies in release order. Was wondering, what is your favorite and least favorite MCU film and why?" Well, Noah, I think that, you know what, I have to say that my favorites are Infinity War and Endgame, only because watching those films with all of those characters that we've come to know and love over the course of those movies, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And as a longtime Marvel Comics fan, I mean, I've been reading Marvel comic books since I was a little kid. I mean, my friends would come over when I was in elementary school, and we'd argue over who was better, the Justice League or the Avengers. And I always argued for the Justice League because I wasn't a Marvel fan then, but I slowly got sucked into it, mostly through the X-Men. And then I became a big Marvel fan, and started reading a lot of Marvel comics, including the Avengers and X-Men, obviously, and they were my jam, and like Daredevil, and I love those comics. And it got to the point where I was a huge Marvel fan, even in elementary school. So to see something like Infinity War and Endgame, it blows my mind. It just blows my mind. But that said, I think probably The Winter Soldier is my next favorite of the films, because it felt like, a 70s conspiracy thriller, and it could exist outside of the MCU. Like, you could take Captain America out of that movie and make it a soldier or something, and it would still work. You could keep almost the entire plot the same, and I think it would still work. I think my least favorite Marvel movie is probably Thor: The Dark World, but I still like Thor: The Dark World. I mean, for me, even the bad movies are good, and I wouldn't call Thor: The Dark World bad. I think if it was a standalone film and some other filmmaker had made it, people would be like, I'm happy to have made that movie. So I'm a big MCU fan. Dexstar sends in a tip and says, hello, hope all is well. I cry a lot in films, so when I saw Jojo Rabbit when it came out, I bawled at the shoe scene, but another scene that really made me cry was when Sam Rockwell's character protects Jojo with his life. Moments of bravery really get me. Dex, I am right there with you, man. That what a film that is. And it for all of its wacky goofiness, who would have thought that a movie where Taika Waititi is basically cosplaying Hitler could have the emotional wallop that film does? But man, it does, and it gets me. And I agree, that moment with Sam Rockwell was a great moment. Richard M. sends in a tip and says, also wanted to ask, have you watched Euphoria on HBO? I know HBO is good, but damn, Zendaya along with the rest of the cast kill it, and it's jumped the list as one of my favorite shows of all time. The performances are mesmerizing, and oh my God, the cinematography. Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you, Euphoria is amazing, but it made me realize I'm very happy not to have a teenage daughter. But it's a good movie. A good movie, a good series, and it looked great. Did you watch the two specials? I thought those were quite good as well. It's a good show, and I agree with you. It's great television. It just makes me happy. I'm not a dad of a teenage girl. That's all I can say, man. Want to Be Crazy sends in a tip and says, hey, JC, these WandaVision episodes might not be on for an hour, but everyone feels like it. As a sci-fi fan with Musk and Bezos trying to get us into space, would you like to be a space tourist? Biotech researching, reversing your age. You could be doing this show for 100 years. Well, I want to be crazy or want to be crazy. Yes, I want to be crazy. I would love to live for another 100 years. I would love to just to see the passage of time. I mean, imagine the technological advances when you go from 1800 to 2000. Stunning. The stunning changes in humanity. I would love to have seen that. I would have liked to have lived through all that history. And I think what Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are doing is amazing. I'm a huge space freak. I love seeing Perseverance land on Mars. It's incredible what we're doing now and the technology that we're doing, that we are employing. It's fantastic. And I am definitely there for it. So, yeah. And if I can reverse my age, or even if I could download my mind if I was going to die, but I could download my mind into the mainframe of like a generational starship that's going to take 1,000 years to get to another planet, I'd be in there as long as I had virtual reality and I could appear to be in whatever realm I wanted. I'd be into it. Being a nerd proud. Being a nerd proud. Being a nerd proud sends in a tip and says, hi, John. I'm a huge Neil Gaiman fan, and such a great writer. I'm also so excited to see The Sandman coming to Netflix. I love the cast announcement. I hope they use Metallica's song, Enter Sandman. Definitely spoiled at the moment for TV. WandaVision, Stranger Things will end up as hermits, laugh out loud. Well, being a nerd proud, I have to tell you that The Sandman is my favorite comic series of all time. I love it so much. I cannot wait to see the Sandman series. I really can't. I think it's going to be amazing, and can't wait to see it. I'm just over the moon about this show. By the way, if you are a Sandman fan, you have to listen to the audio drama that's on Audible. Neil Gaiman himself narrates it. It's incredible, too. Sai sends in a tip and says, please watch these Indian movies, Three Idiots, Dangal, and Bahubali. I want to hear your review for at least one of these films. Please, 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 please. You know what? I've often been talking about how my knowledge of Indian cinema is so, well, lame. I don't have much of a knowledge. I watched the Apu trilogy, Saji Ray's Apu trilogy, when I was in film school. But other than that, I've seen things like I own Lagan, and I've seen like Robot and some interesting films like that. But I need to know a lot more about Indian cinema. It's definitely a blind spot in my film knowledge. But I will. Three Idiots I've actually heard of, so maybe I'll dip into that. Aaron sends in a tip and says, hey, John, what are your thoughts on the Saw franchise? I remember waiting for each one every year like it was the next episode of a TV show. I loved 1 to 3 as well as 6. I love it when a movie somewhere in the middle of a horror franchise surprises you. Aaron, I was actually on the set of the first Saw when they were shooting at a place called Lacey Street. I'm a huge fan of the Saw franchise. I can't wait to see the new one coming out that Chris Rock did. I really want to see that. But I think 1 through 3 are great. What a great trilogy. It's a great trilogy that no one ever speaks of. But Saw 1 to 3, 1, 2, and 3 are great. Love them. Lil Uzi Vision sends in a tip and says, do you think Feige has had some development input, obviously not a lot, on the Sony Marvel films like Venom, Morbius, etc., the way they could potentially be placed in the MCU? If not, what kind of universe is Sony building a Spider-Verse without Spider-Man? Well, they're going to get Spider-Man back, Lil, and I think you're absolutely right. I think Kevin Feige is definitely a consultant on these movies, and I think they're all going to eventually be crossed over anyway. They're going to finally come out and say, yes, the Sony Spider-Verse is a part of the MCU, because they're going to have to get Tom Holland back to make another Spider-Man movie at Sony. So I think that's coming. So I think Kevin Feige has more input than we might know. Christy sends in a tip and says, imagine the big cameo in WandaVision turns out to be Deadpool, and the first thing he says when he shows up is, well, who are you expecting, Luke Skywalker? Christy, if that happened, I think everybody would love it, even though it'd be like, wait, what? But I would love that. That would be one way to do it. I don't know what the reason would be he would wind up in WandaVision, but whenever he shows up in the MCU, that's exactly what he should say. Suthius sends in a tip and says, hey guys, holy fucking shitballs, I got goosebumps watching the Mortal Kombat trailer. So much bloody goodness. The characters, the action, and the fighting all look great. Love the usage of Sub-Zero's powers. Hiroyuki Sanada as Scorpion, forget about it. Suthius, I got to tell you, I was talking to John about this. I said to him, we were talking on the phone because I wasn't on the show Friday, and I asked him, I go, brah, what did you think of the Mortal Kombat trailer? And he was talking about when Sub-Zero, and I'm like, yeah, man, when he froze the blood, turned it into a spike, used it for the killing blow. He used the dude's own blood, froze it into a spike. I mean, we're both like, yeah, man. I'll tell you, I'm so there for that movie. I mean, Mortal Kombat, the other two movies, I know John likes the first one, but I thought both of them I could take them or leave them. The second one, barely watchable. But this one, I'm in. Count me in. Corey O says, John, I'm a lifelong Mortal Kombat fan. I've played every iteration of the game. I would be lying if I said I didn't shit myself when I saw that trailer this morning. So freaking pumped to see some gory fatalities. Well, Corey, I hope you at least wash your jeans first or whatever pants you had on. But I'm right there with you, man. That trailer cracked me up. I am so down with the sickness. I can't wait to see it. Sam Phillips sends in a tip and said, or Sam Phillip. Hi, John. I just saw that Deadline is reporting that J.J. Abrams is making a Constantine show for HBO Max. Do you think it's still possible that he could do Superman as well? Thanks. Sam, I wouldn't put it past J.J. Abrams. I think he wants to do a big, gigantic theatrical feature film, and it wouldn't surprise me if he did Superman. Of course, he wrote the flyby script that was McGee was actually going to make and then ended up not making it, and then Superman Returns happened instead. So, the Constantine show, I hope it's good. I hope they're talking about casting a person of color, which could be good. I have no problem with that. But I would love to see a John Constantine movie. I liked the first Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves. I was a huge fan of the Hellblazer comic. I read them all. But I would love to see, like, John Constantine, the real Scottish bloke, or the British, Scotland, Britain, Irish. I mean, there's so many, but a real UK actor play that role. I would love to see that. I'd love to see him do like the Newcastle storyline, which is so dark. If you've read the comics, so dark. Alan says, "Hi, John. Saw the Mortal Kombat trailer and loved it. It got me thinking, if this movie was made on a relatively low budget, why does anybody need $150 million to make a movie? Could this make studios rethink budget? What did you think of the trailer?" Alan, that's a really good question. I think that it really depends. I mean, the reason that they spend a lot of money on these movies is because they're expensive to make. When you have large, whether it's a Harry Potter movie or an MCU movie or a DC movie or, even a Fast and the Furious movie, there's so many people that work on these films, so many effects that they're just really expensive to make. And then they're expected to perform, make $1 billion. But a movie like Mortal Kombat, they can keep the budget down because, it's dudes in a room fighting. You don't have like 10 superheroes or 12 superheroes or 20 superheroes or millions of superheroes like the end of Endgame all battling. So it's easier. It's easier to manage the budget on a movie like that. So I don't think the studios are now into making these big budget franchises. I don't see them going back and doing lower budget films. Like, that's what streaming's for. Alan goes on to say, "Hi, John. Saw the Mortal Kombat trailer and loved it. Amazing it was made on a low budget. Quick questions for you about it. Do you think Melina actually cut off Sonya's hand at the end?" Maybe. Think we'll get another full trailer before the movie comes out? I think we are going to get another trailer. I think the reaction to that trailer was so good that I wouldn't be surprised if we see another trailer come out. Because that trailer was a hoot. I watched it like 4 times, to be honest. Suthius sends in a tip and says, "Cool to see some of the Mortal Kombat cast from other superhero shows and movies. Hiroyuki Sanada from The Wolverine and Endgame, Ludi Lin from Power Rangers, Louis Tan from Iron Fist, Makad Brooks from Supergirl, and Tadanobu Asano as Hogun from the Thor movies." Yep, they got a great cast. I think it's great. I think it was really good for the movie itself to have that kind of a recognizable cast, and that's part of what made it kind of cool, I thought. I was like, "Oh my God, look who's in it!" I thought that was it was good, man. I can't wait. I got HBO Max. I'll watch that shit the day it drops, son. Broderick Gochenauer says, 7 episodes into WandaVision so far, and I am blown away by the acting of Olsen and Bettany. I don't see how they don't get Emmy nominations. Do you think they'll get Emmy nominations, and do you think they can win? I am right there with you, Broderick. I think they are just crushing it. Crushing. Love them, love them, love them. Don't know if they'll get Emmy nominations. They probably should. It really depends, though. Will the Emmy voters buy into the first MCU TV series? Or will they be all snobbish? Like, we're not going to. But Olsen and Bettany, man, they are crushing it. Crushing it. Absolutely. I totally think that they should get Emmy nominations. They're amazing. Booster's the name, says, "Hey, John, stumbled across Sly Stallone's YouTube channel and saw that he's doing a recut of Rocky IV for its 35th anniversary. It's a cool 11-minute video of him and the process of finding deleted scenes and editing them into the mix. Have you seen this?" I have seen this. As an editor myself, I'm fascinated by somebody who goes back 35 years after the fact and works on their films. We're seeing a number of those things, like with Francis Coppola going back 30 years and doing the Godfather 3 recut. And I think, look, I love the Rocky movies. I didn't like Rocky 4 very much. It's my second least favorite one behind Rocky 5. And I think if there's more meat to add into that movie, more character stuff, I think it could probably be pretty good. I'm excited, man. I'm going to watch that. I'm excited. Alan Schroeder's here. "Hi, John. Big fan. Elizabeth Olsen gave an interview in 2016 where she talks about Doctor Strange putting Wanda in a trance and says, played by none other than Benedict Cumberbatch, coming soon to a TV near you. Could he appear but not be the big cameo? I don't know. I mean, I think he definitely could appear. Some Avenger's going to have to appear. Somebody's got to do something because there's only 2 episodes left. And I would imagine everything's going to get pretty insane in the next 2 episodes. I have no idea what it's going to be like. But yeah, they've got to bring... I think Doctor Strange would be an obvious choice because now there's magic involved. Now we know that Agnes is Abigail Harkness. Did I say Abigail? Because I'm thinking Swamp Thing. Because I'm thinking John Constantine. Agatha Harkness. And I think it's interesting with now 2 sorceresses. You got to bring in Doctor Strange, don't you? I mean, I'd think so. James LH sends in a tip and says, "Hi, John. Loving WandaVision, but no theories. But the other big Disney news, on the 23rd of February here in the UK and other regions, sees the release of Star on Disney+. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be interesting to see how this increases Disney subscribers. The release of Star, I don't know what Star, do you mean Star Wars? I don't know. Isn't Star Wars already on Disney? I'm not sure. But you know what? I think they've already surpassed what they projected it would take them 4 years to do. So I think they're just crushing it with their subscribers. And WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think Disney Plus is just crushing it, which is good to see. Mario and Luigi sends in a tip and says, "If they're doing Mortal Kombat in the style of The Raid Redemption, it could be the best movie ever." Now, remember, Mario and Luigi, what I like to say about The Raid is I call it The Rad, and The Rad 2 even radder, because I love those movies, and I am right there with you. If they did Mortal Kombat in the style of The Raid Redemption, it could be the best movie ever. I don't have a car, but I'm going to rent one, drive around the cinema parking lot, windows open, for 2 hours, banging the Mortal Kombat song on repeat before going in. You know what? I'm there for that. If you're going to do that, tell me what theater. I want to come in. I want to watch you. I'm going to clock you. I'm going to see how many rotations, how many laps around the parking lot you do. But I'll be right there with you. I'll go sit next to you and we'll bang our heads together. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, "Hey, John and company, because of you and the gang, I want to start in the movie pundit space. Just wanted to get your thought on your preferred editing application. Thanks and love your show and everything you do. P.S. Feel free to plug your movie. I haven't had time to see it." Well, since I helped John make it, remember, John Campea's movie that he produced and directed is called Movie Trailers, A Love Story, a fantastic documentary that you can get on both Amazon or, if you live in other parts of the world, in the United States, you can get it on Vimeo. And I'm, of course, in it. So there's 2 reasons to watch it. No, I actually, a third reason, and probably the best reason, is that it's really good. If you like movie trailers, I think you'll really get a kick out of this movie. It's a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun doing it. So, yeah. And congratulations on joining us in the movie pundit space. Good for you. And in terms of editing software, I think the 2 best editing softwares to use, a lot of people now use Adobe Premiere. I find Adobe Premiere a little cumbersome. I like Adobe Premiere, but I like Final Cut X better. I know some people will be like, what? But I think it's easier to do things like rendering. It's just quicker. But your mileage may vary. So those are really the 2 softwares that I use the most. Devin A sends in a tip and says, "Hi, John. Been a fan of yours since AMC. I love movie trailers, but only recently discovered Prince of Peace. It was great and opened up my mind to some things that hadn't yet occurred to me. I hope you aren't done making films yet. Thanks for all you do." Well, Devin A, that's very nice to hear. It's always great. There's always, the more films that you see, the better. There's so many movies out in the world that'll change your opinion and hopefully your perspective on things. And the more you see, the better off it is. Better off for anybody, because it's always nice to have more points of view. And, I don't know Prince of Peace. I have to look into that. I'm a big fan of documentaries, too. I'll watch a documentary about just about anything. Sam Fisher sends in a tip and says, "I really hope Christina Ricci plays Morticia in Wednesday, even if she's only in it for like all of 10 minutes at the beginning and the end when Wednesday's dropped off at the school, though it'd probably be Lurch doing the dropping off and picking up." I like that idea. I can't wait to see that. Tim Burton's doing a Wednesday TV series. I'll watch that. That'll be great. Maybe they would get Christina Ricci to play Morticia. I like that idea. John Demoto says, hello, John from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I just want to say thank you for your YouTube content the last couple of days. Winter has been brutal here the last couple of weeks. Your show has gotten our family through some tough times. Well, John, thanks very much. That's good to know. I hope I was a part of that. Tulsa is where they shot, I believe, Coppola made The Outsiders and Rumblefish in Tulsa because S.E. Hinton wrote the books about Tulsa, if memory serves. Are you guys big fans of The Outsiders or Rumblefish? Do people still read S.E. Hinton? I don't know. But, well, here's to you and your family. You keep safe in the snow. Major Nelson sends in a tip and says, you talked about Ultimate Game Pass. In case you didn't know, if you buy 24 months of Xbox Live Gold, then use the 3 months for $1 offer, you can get Ultimate Game Pass for up to 2 years. That offer has worked since they introduced the service. Wow, Major Nelson. That is something amazing to know. Thank you, Major. Major Nelson with a great tip. I think I'm going to have to use that. Oh. Agent Cajun sends in a tip and says, hi, John, comic book fan since 1957. You were discussing movies you want to see get a sequel. I've got 3 to consider. Priest, 8mm, and Band Slam. I guess they didn't do that well at the box office. I think they were all underrated. What did you think? You know what? Well, 8mm is kind of hardcore. You know, that was written by Andy Kevin Walker, who wrote the movie Seven. And I thought I like 8mm. I don't know if it warrants a sequel, man. That movie is dark. Priest I liked. I'd watch a sequel to Priest. I think that'd be good. And I never saw Band Slam, but I think the title alone warrants a Band Slam 2, Hit the Drum Harder or something. June's here. June says, hi, John. Because of your recommendation, I just binge-watched The Expanse. All 5 seasons in 3 days. I'm bleary-eyed. Laugh out loud. Just wow. I love the diversity of the cast, and I was even fascinated with all the different hairstyles. Great show. June, I love The Expanse. I think it's one of the finest science fiction shows ever. It is a since you brought up diversity, it's a show that does diversity perfectly. All kinds of people are represented on that show. It's done matter-of-factly because that's what the future would be like. And I really, really love The Expanse. I'm glad you really dug it. And I hope they do more than just one more season because, come on, man. So much more stories to tell. Sam Dean sends in a tip and says, could still be actual Pietro. According to Supernatural, everybody comes back as an asshole if soulless. Damn, I missed the boys. Well, they had a long run, though, man. Those boys, the Supernatural boys, they had a long run. I think it kind of would have to be Pietro because you looked across the multiverse and then recreated somebody from a multiverse that nobody on Earth that you're dealing with knows. How does that work? I don't know. Robert Conrad sends in a tip and says, my MK theory, that's Mortal Kombat, Cole is a descendant of Scorpion. There's a scene when Cole sees an evil side of himself in the mirror. During Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight, Cole is there as well. OG Scorpion will die, and Cole will become the new Scorpion, killing Sub-Zero. Ooh, I like that theory, Robert. Robert Conrad, are you named after the actor who used to do the battery ads where he's like, I dare you to knock this off my shoulder? And Robert Conrad was in it. He was in Wild West, a favorite of mine when I was a kid. He was also in a show called Baa Black Sheep that was about the Black Sheep Squadron in World War II. So good on you. I like your theory though. It's good to me. Ronan was right. Sends in a tip and says, after episode 6, I thought, poor Vision. Damn man, why does he have to die and Loki still lives? I now understand Hawkeye's mindset in Endgame. By the way, I know it's an alternate timeline, Loki, but this is technically an alternate reality Vision. You are correct. You are correct. Uh-oh. COVID, I'm telling you. But I can't wait. I really can't wait to see how they're gonna wrap all this up. But yeah, I agree with you, man. I understand Hawkeye's mindset in Endgame too. By the way, I have a great hot toy figure of Hawkeye from Endgame as Ronin. Zom Grueler sends in a tip and says, just saw still images of the new animated Aquaman show for HBO Max. Apparently, it's between Aquaman 1 and 2. I'm going to be blunt. This looks awful. I'm one of the few to enjoy all the DCEU films except Suicide Squad, but even I have my limits. Maybe it's loose with the canon like the others. You know what? I haven't seen any of that. But I'll take your word for it. How can they make a... after the first Aquaman movie, you'd think an animated film would look lush and incredible. How could they make it not work? I mean, that's lame. El Lamaruno. Dark Knight Rises sends in a tip and says, "Hi, John. Where's the Canadian flag and memorabilia for your new studio? It needs some love from the homeland." Well, I kind of like the stark look of it, but I think John's going to really build himself a nice set at some point. He's got the room to do it. I'd love to see a really cool, very elaborate, well-lit set there. I think it'd be neat. But you're right. A good Canadian kid needs a good Canadian Maple Leaf flag, doesn't he? Or at least his favorite hockey jersey or something. Come on, John. Get on that. Dark Knight Rises sends in a tip and says, "Hi, John. Given what you've been saying about celebrities and what they do on social media, I think a great documentary for you to do would be to look at publicists and the PR of Hollywood. Who are the best at what they do in shaping the image of stars?" I think that's a really good idea, Dark Knight Rises. It would take a lot of research. You'd have to interview a lot of people. It might be difficult because you'd have to interview the stars themselves as well. But good idea. Really good idea. Dark Knight Rises goes on to say, "I think a companion documentary to doing one on the PR and publicists in Hollywood would be on the agents and agencies who move and shake the industry. CA, William Morris, etc. Dark Knight Rises could be a great documentary. I can't even imagine if you started doing a documentary on agents. They'd all be clamoring all over each other to get into it. It'd be crazy. It'd be crazy. But it would work. Maybe you could combine them both. Do the agents documentary and the PR documentary at the same time, and you get the agents to get you their clients to put in your movie about PR. I think it could work. Could be a plan." Tony Stank sends in a tip and says, "WandaVision, I respect your theory that this is not the Fox Universe Quicksilver, but you have to be wrong. There would be zero gain, in my opinion, for Disney to pull this switcheroo, and I feel it'd be more fan disservice than service if you're correct. But I love you, bro." Tony, I'm with you. I'm like, why bother doing it if it's not Evan Peters is not Quicksilver from the Fox universe? Why would you even go there then? And how would anybody from our universe even know about Evan Peters or the Fox X-Men universe? It's so weird. So I'm with you. Suthia says, "So I've watched some Mortal Kombat trailer reactions, and it seems that the main oh shit moment is when Sub-Zero freezes Scorpion's blood and stabs him with it. Very cool, by the way. I see it as Sub-Zero being thoughtful, deciding to give Scorpion's blood back." I like the way you think, Suthius. That's funny. I love that moment. John and I love that moment. I just talked about that moment. I love it. I think it's so great. But that's what you want. Like, that would have been something you would have seen in the game, and you would have been like, that was awesome. So I love that. War Doctor 10 sends in a tip and says, "Hi, John and crew. Which X-Men team do you think would fit best in the MCU? I think the team of Cyclops, Gambit, Storm, Rogue, Wolverine, and Nightcrawler would be perfect. Thanks, and Excelsior." That's a good team. I would go back. I think I'm old school, where you'd have to go back to Cyclops, Jean Grey, Iceman, Beast. You could put Nightcrawler in there, I guess. Yeah. Bring in some new X-Men too. Storm, maybe. Jake Gearing sends in a tip and says, "Hey, John, you're the best YouTuber out there. Your content is always consistent and always exciting. Who do you think is the next big bad in the MCU? Galactus? Mephisto? Doctor Doom?" I'm thinking Kang. Kang the Conqueror is going to be the next big bad in the MCU. But I think if they bring in the Fantastic Four, Galactus will follow. And then if Mephisto is revealed to be part of WandaVision, obviously he'll be a part of that with Doctor Strange and in the Multiverse of Madness. And Doctor Doom has to come in along with Galactus and the Fantastic Four. So I think all of those people are going to be in play. The Wakandan Forever says, "I don't have very much to say about how I feel about Ric Flair. Nature boy. No respect. No honor. There is no honor amongst thieves in the first place. You put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family. John, what is your favorite wrestling rivalry? You know what? I have to say Wakanda Forever. John needs to answer this question because I don't know, but I will say this. When I was doing my character of the captain for the Schmodown, I watched a lot of Ric Flair, and I loved where he was coming from. So he inspired me. Wakanda Forever goes on to say, okay, Big Dust, Baby Doll is happy with the Nature Boy. She will never again have to stay up at night having to think of things to say to you that were never true. Because when you ride Space Mountain, jumping on is a whole lot easier than jumping off. Woo! Again, is that a song? Am I too old to know? I apologize, but you know what? I'm going to find out. Well, let me see. Since you have me, I have this newfangled thing called the internet, and I can just go on here and see let's see. Baby Doll is happy with the Nature Boy. Is this a song? Let's see. The Real World Champion. Okay, Ric Flair's name. I got it. Okay, there you go. Nature Boy Ric Flair. This comes from WCW Worldwide. Wow. Nature Boy World Heavyweight Champion Ric Flair with Baby Doll in 1986. Now I know what you mean. Wow, what a man that guy is. No wonder I patterned my Schmodown character after him. I'm here for him and Baby Doll. Adam Rose says, hey, John, have you had the chance to watch In and of Itself on Hulu yet? It's a one-man show I saw while in New York, and it's directed by Frank Oz, and it's all about identity using storytelling and magic. Changed my life, and I think you'll enjoy it too. You know what? People have been telling me to watch this. They're like, you got to watch In and of Itself. I am dying to see it. You just reminded me of it again. I must watch it. In and of Itself. Can't wait to see that. I haven't seen it, though. Devin says, if Paddington 3 slaps hard and is on par with 1 and 2, I'm sure they'll make a fourth. But if they don't, where does the Paddington trilogy rank all time amongst all trilogies? I'd be hard-pressed to keep it out of the top 5. Those Paddington movies are way better than I ever thought they were going to be. And I think you might be right, Devin. If they made a third one and it sticks that landing, if it's the Return of the King of Paddington movies, you could definitely... I mean, the thing is, look, is Paddington going to be as beloved as Star Wars or anything like that? Maybe not. Like, I don't know. But still, the movies themselves, the first 2 Paddington films, are really good. So you might have something there. Wow. Leon Sunwolf, 1 of 4. All right. Hello, John. I just viewed the trailer for episode 7 of WandaVision, where we see a depressed Wanda. And in addition to listening to the cover of Mad World by Pentatonics, I was reminded of one of my best movies of all time, Donnie Darko. I'm always irked when I see reaction videos of the song cover and nobody ever mentions the film, even with the ghost trails, which are directly taken from it. This film has had such an impact on me that to this day, just hearing the song has me seeing flashbacks of it. The cast is impressive with a very young Jake Mysterio Gyllenhaal starring, his sister Maggie, Mary McDonald, Patrick Swayze, Drew Barrymore, Sparkle Motion, man. I would join Sparkle Motion. Noah Wiley. It explores the theme of mental illness while being a thriller with an ending twist that blows your mind, teased by the song. I wanted to mention it in order to hopefully let more people be aware of it. What are your thoughts about it? Have a good day. Well, Leon Sunwolf, I'm a huge Donnie Darko fan, and I think you are right. I think Richard Kelly made quite a little masterpiece there. There's also 2 versions of it. There's a regular theatrical and there's an extended director's cut. I actually have a really beautiful box set of Donnie Darko on Blu-ray from Arrow. It's a 3-disc set, and Arrow is also releasing it on 4K in April. I'm a huge fan of the film. I totally agree with you. It's mind-blowing. The implications are great. And I love Donnie Darko. All around me are familiar faces. And that version of the song is great too. And you know what? Whenever I hear that remake, it is Donnie Darko for me. Frankie Gao says, came across an older film that I'd forgotten about. Some films should be, if not liked, but admired for the sheer audacity of their creation. This film, 3,000 Miles to Graceland. All right. Vegas, a gang of Elvises or Elvi, a heist, Kurt Russell and Kevin Costner. Damn. 3,000 Miles to Graceland is so much fun. And you're right. People don't talk about it enough. Frankie, thank you for reminding me of 3,000 Miles to Graceland. I might have to go watch that again. I agree. Alec McVie says, hey, John, do you think episode 7 will be the last we see of Evan Peters' version of Pietro, or do you think we will see him throughout the remainder of the series? Regardless of who this Pietro actually is, I'm really enjoying Evan's portrayal of him. Well, snoopers be snooping, right? I think we're going to see Evan Peters for the rest of the show. I think he's probably, whatever he is, whoever he is, maybe he's just himself. It's a big deal, so I would imagine, yes, we are definitely going to be seeing him. Amanda Burns sends in a tip and says, hi, John, you mentioned that GC would not set herself up as a martyr. What about Jesse Smollett and his fake attack in Chicago? If it had worked, he would have made millions. I ain't mad at her, but that's what Gina did. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I don't think anybody should be setting themselves up as martyrs, or I think Gina Carano doesn't need to do that. I think that, she comes from an incredibly wealthy family, and I think she really is who she says she is. She stands up for the little guy. She doesn't like to be bullied. She doesn't like to be, whether you agree with her politics or not, she is her own person, and you know where she's coming from. I don't think she would do anything that's maybe dishonest. I don't think she was doing what Jesse Smollett did. I don't. That was a, by the way, have you seen Dave Chappelle's, his whole thing about, or she says Juicy Smollett? Have you seen his take on that? It's hilarious, Amanda. So I don't know if it's the same thing. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. Edgar Navarro sends in a tip and says, I dropped everything at work to watch the Mortal Kombat trailer, and I freaking loved it. I'm so ready. But it lands on my nephew's birthday, so it looks like sad birthday for him, since I'll be in the theaters watching this and not at his party. Haha. Maybe you should take him. Can you imagine? He'll never forget it. For his birthday, take him to see Mortal Kombat. Don't tell anybody, because somebody will probably say, Edgar, you can't take him to see Mortal Kombat. But you should. That'll be his memorable birthday. You'll be talking about it for years to come. I think you should do it. And that way you won't miss his birthday. Ryan Butler sends in a tip and says, John, whatever happened to the Tetris trilogy? I haven't heard a single word about it, and Tetris has a story that needs to be told. You know what I often think about? How deep and how illuminating the Tetris trilogy would perhaps be for all of humanity. And it's a wonder we haven't seen it yet. FYI, Gary Oldman is better than Daniel Day-Lewis. Just my opinion. Thoughts? Interesting. I think they're both very fine actors. I know John thinks Daniel Day-Lewis is the GOAT. I love Gary Oldman. I think Gary Oldman has played, I don't know, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say more wide variety of characters, but that's not fair. But Gary Oldman can go from Sid Vicious to playing Winston Churchill to playing the cop in The Professional, in Leon the Professional. I mean, that's a lot of diversity. But then again, Daniel Day-Lewis can play Bill the Butcher in Gangs of New York, and a clothing designer in The Phantom Thread, and then Lincoln. So, man, I don't know. That's a close race. I think if you went and did an analysis film by film, it almost might be a dead heat. Greg Scott Bailey sends in a tip and says, follow up on watching Spider-Man Far From Home again. Talos and Nick Fury says, I thought knowledge of Kree sleeper cells was top secret just before the report of a new elemental. Not related to WandaVision, but found it interesting for future stories in the MCU. Oh, if they're going to do Secret Wars, there's going to be a lot going on with the Kree and the Skrull. I mean, I wonder if you're going to see the Kree-Skrull war. I can't wait. I don't know what's going to happen, but it is very interesting, Greg. And they don't forget. They know what they're doing at Marvel. Jesse sends in a tip, and it's one of 3. The Russo brothers recently on the Lights Camera Barstool podcast somewhat confirmed my Captain America alternate timeline theory I wrote in about a few days ago. According to the pair, Cap did live out his days with Peggy in an alternate branch reality before traveling back to the main reality to hand over the shield. However, Marcus and McFeely, the writers, are firmly in the camp that old Cap exists in the MCU timeline and was at Peggy's funeral. Is it weird that the writers and directors are on such different pages? And what side do you tend to believe? Well, no, I mean, I think you'd be surprised. Writers and directors can sometimes maybe disagree. Just talk to Ridley Scott or Hampton Fancher about Blade Runner, and whether Deckard's a replicant or not, or even Harrison Ford. So people can be on different sides of the same argument. I think, though, that I would like to believe that Steve Rogers was in our timeline, not in a branch reality. I like the fact that he's been there the whole time and that he was active, just not as Steve Rogers. You know, he had a different identity, and maybe even some people knew. And you could do a whole series of films about Steve Rogers in the 40s and 50s and 60s, in the Cold War. I think it'd be awesome. So I'm firmly in the camp of I think he was in the MCU the whole time. I do. Nick O says, "Hey, John, you've said many times you don't believe that this is the real Pietro. I agree on that, but I can't help but think about how cool it would be if the episode ends with Vision walking up to him and says, 'Where's Charles?' Would you be okay with this if it was true?" Yeah, I would if it was done well. I've been very happy mostly with how the MCU handles all this and the different things they do. I mean, I think very, very cool stuff. I can't complain. Can't complain. Garrett sends in a tip and says, in episode 6, Pietro says to Wanda that your brother suppressed a lot of those memories when they were talking about Halloween as kids. That makes me think he is an imposter even more. Thoughts? Could very well be. Like he didn't know what was going on. I don't know. I mean, it's my big question is it really Peter Maximoff from the X-Men universe? I mean, that's such a crazy. It's so crazy that could possibly be the case, but we shall see. I don't know. I want it to be. I know John doesn't think it is, but I want it to be that. I really want it to be him. Deshaun sends in a tip and says, "Hey, John, what are your thoughts on how some WandaVision fans feel like they'll be getting cheated if Evan Peters' Quicksilver isn't the Fox version and that this isn't an X-Men crossover? I see a lot of fans saying it would be a fake out. I disagree, but still." Well, Deshaun, I think, look, they have to explain how somebody from meaning the Marvel Cinematic Universe, how did somebody from the Marvel Cinematic Universe even know that there was a Fox X-Men alternate universe and know the difference in why would they even think to go to the X-Men to find the Quicksilver there when it's not the Quicksilver from, like, who made that leap? Like, where did that come from? Somebody had to have done it in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm really curious to know who it is and what it is and how it works, and I hope they have I think they are going to have a great explanation, but I still want to know what it is. Am Singh says, "Hi, John, fan to your according to me, or apparently I can't speak. Hi, John." Am Singh says, let me try this again. Am Singh says, "Hi, John, fan of your shows since the Collider days with Schnepp. Do you think we should put more emphasis onto criticizing writers as we do directors? I ask because I've noticed Wonder Woman 84 is written by the same guy who is writing Mortal Kombat. Keep it sweaty." Well, Ams, I absolutely. It all begins with the writing. I think writers should be criticized as much, if not more, than directors because they're there first. And if the writers don't deliver the kind of story or the script we need, no director in the world, the best director, is not going to save a script that's not that good. So, 100%, I honestly believe that yes, indeed, go after those writers. By the way, thanks for mentioning the big guy, John Schnepp. Always good to hear about him. Caleb sends in a tip and says, "Do you think that Darcy and Vision will team up? Also, I saw a theory that Hayward was actually Ultron, which is why he was experimenting on Vision. What do you think about that?" I think Darcy and Vision, I loved seeing them team up in tonight's episode, in episode 7, when they had some banter and were working together briefly. I thought that was great. I'd watch the Darcy and Vision show. I think Hayward being maybe Ultron is really interesting. But then I think, again, it's too much. You know, it's already sequels and prequels and it's got so many ties to the rest of the MCU. If Ultron shows up, I think that would overshadow what's actually happening. I mean, already they got Agatha Harkness. It's like, my God, what more are they going to do? But you know what? This show is so bonkers that they might. Kyle Starr tips. Hello, Kyle. Thank you for that. Remember when Pietro said the Stark bomb didn't blow up? Stark technology always works. Maybe their father, Magneto, stopped it from exploding. Ooh, I like that. I don't think it's true, but it could have been. But then again, they didn't know their father. So, and why would Magneto be there? Then again, you don't know. Maybe he was there. Maybe Magneto's been part of the MCU the whole time. We just haven't seen him yet, which makes sense. Charlie J says, "Hey, John, been on a Jake Gyllenhaal binge lately. In the movie Stronger, I thought he was fantastic. I love the chemistry with him and Tatiana Maslany in the film. What are some of your favorite films of his?" Well, we just talked about Donnie Darko. One of my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal movies, though, is one of his first movies, a movie called October Sky, which has model rockets in it, and it's kind of more of a family drama, but I really like that. And I loved him in Nightcrawler. If you haven't seen Nightcrawler, you got to see Nightcrawler. He's just unhinged. He's really, really great. Jonathan sends in a tip and says, "I like the Mordo Theory. I remember Kevin Feige confirming Wanda is drawing power from other dimensions and casting them into the real world, like Strange but less controlled. As she is growing more powerful, this could attract Mordo's attention." I like that idea. You know, maybe that's what happens at the end, is that Mordo comes and takes Wanda with him. That could be really interesting. I like that idea. Something to do with them. I could see it. Edgar Navarro sends in a tip and says, "Also, thank you for the encouraging words. It's been a hell of a week here in Dallas. Busted pipes, 2 days of no electricity, ice and snow. I'm a good old Texas boy. I want my hot weather back." But in the MK trailer, in the Mortal Kombat trailer, WandaVision and your show keeps me going. Well, Edgar, keep your chin up. Remember, this too shall pass. And look at it this way. You're having an adventure now. You'll be able to talk about this for years to come and all the craziness that you had to endure. And as long as no one loses their life and stays safe, and please stay safe, you'll have a good story to tell your kids. But yeah, I'm glad you like the show, that we keep everybody sane, which is good. I hope you have power to watch our show. I hear that the power is a problem too. Victor Vision sends in a tip and says, "I agree that Hayward's not a villain. Don't think that Marvel will repeat what they did with Robert Redford's character with S.H.I.E.L.D. and do the same with S.W.O.R.D. Yeah, I tend to believe that. Although I kind of like the idea that maybe it's Ultron, just because I love Ultron. But all the way back in the comics, I loved Ultron. But I don't know if that's going to actually happen. Asgard, Oklahoma sends in a tip and says, "Wild WandaVision theory. I don't know if anyone has asked this yet, but is there a chance that Wanda, with her woo-woo hex powers, summon the Ego Stone, the 7th Infinity Stone? It was thrown into the Ultra Universe when it was created and is sentient." Ooh, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to go that far. I don't know if they would go in that direction, because if they did, it would confuse people. People are like, "Wait, what? Did Thanos have that stone?" I don't know. Thanos, did you? He's right here. Thanos, my boy, is right over here. My hot toys Thanos, armored Thanos. But yeah, I think that's too much. It goes too deep into lore, and I don't think it's going to happen. Johnsy, is it Johnsy? Johnsy11 says, "Has anyone mentioned Mojo from the Mojoverse as the main villain?" You know, again, I think the reason I love Mojo, I love the Mojoverse. I was a huge Longshot fan. I have that original miniseries. I don't think they would go there because, again, Mojo has too much backstory with the X-Men. You'd have to explain where all that's coming from. And with 2 episodes left for WandaVision, I don't think that they would go that far. But then again, you never know. The show's so bonkers, it might. Frankie Gouge sends in a tip and says, "Wouldn't Shuri be the first person that Wakanda would have went to ask about Vision? Probably not an aerospace engineer." I would think so. I mean, I think they would have had to go to Wakanda to get Vision, wouldn't they? I mean, Shuri would probably be the person they'd need to talk to. But I don't know. Again, we really don't know what that backstory is. I hope they give us more illumination to that backstory later. Hi, John. I love how in an interview for Age of Ultron, Elizabeth Olsen said her favorite storyline is House of M, but it will never happen. Disney and Marvel accepted her challenge. When you wish upon a dark star, your nightmares will come true. You know what I liked? If you go back, like, Elizabeth Olsen really did her research. She's been on a few things. Like, one was for, like, I don't think it was Elle magazine. It was some, like, back in 2016, it was some magazine, some fashion magazine. She was talking about the whole history of Wanda Maximoff, and she knew. Like, she was holding up comics. I mean, she might have been reading a script, but it felt like she actually knew and, like, had done the work and read about these characters. That's at least That's how I felt about it. And I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, I admire her for that. Exaggerated Stupidity sends in a tip and says, as the Star Wars franchise moves beyond the Skywalker storyline, does the concept of saga versus anthology movies cease to become relevant or useful? If another Star Wars trilogy unrelated to the Skywalker trilogy, would that be a saga movie or its own thing? I think that the Star Wars franchise is now much bigger than just the saga movies or whatever. I mean, now that you have The Mandalorian and the Clone Wars, which are actually, the Mandalorian is really the first, other than the sequel trilogy, which is still a saga thing. The Mandalorian's new. I think we're going to get all kinds of different things. Obviously, they're doing like 10 different shows set in the Star Wars universe. So I think the Skywalker saga is going to be unto itself, unless they decide to do, 10, 11, and 12 or something. But I think the Star Wars universe is going to go in all different directions, and they're just going to call it part of the Star Wars franchise. I mean, Star Wars is now going to mean all of these things. I think the movies and the shows are going to be where kind of the EU or the Legends universe is now. So, I think they're not going to make that distinction anymore. I think they're just going to make Star Wars, and it's all part of the same continuum. Mad Max, hey, Max Rocketansky, how are you? Mad Max says, your show has been a beacon of hope during this dreadful pandemic. As a newer listener, I noticed you used the phrase, we live in a world where Jamie Foxx is coming back to play Electro to denote a low probability event. What's the story behind this idiom? Well, I for myself, I would just say that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Jamie Foxx as Electro is not necessarily considered the greatest movie in the world. And I think that Jamie Foxx's character, the way Electro was portrayed, was a little campy. Like, I love Jamie Foxx as an actor. I love him. I mean, I loved him in Michael Mann's Miami Vice. I loved him in Miami Vice. He was so good in that. I'm a huge Jamie Foxx fan, but I just thought that the Electro character was kind of all over the place. So the idea that they're bringing him back is so strange to me. Like, I don't think that his performance or even the character or even that movie was universally loved by any stretch of the imagination. So the fact that he's coming back is kind of crazy. And I think it just means that, that the fact that these movies are happening, that they're crossing over, the fact that J. Jonah Jameson showed up in Spider-Man Far From Home, that kind of would have been the same thing. But I don't think it's disparaging to Jamie Foxx. I think it's important to remember it's not disparaging to Jamie Foxx. It's just kind of crazy when it's not that would be like bringing back Janosz Poha from Ghostbusters 2. Like, nobody would have ever thought somebody would do that, but I guess if they did, that'd kind of be the same thing. But I just hope that if they do bring Jamie Foxx back, and I guess they are, that Electro is he's a little bit more of a serious character, and they play him a little bit. I think he will. I think he'll be a little bit more naturalistic, and I think that they're bringing him back because they've got a good idea of how to use him. So maybe it could be pretty cool. By the way, there is a hot toy of Jamie Foxx as Electro. Jay Bling sends in a tip and says, the director of the new Mortal Kombat movie gave a trailer commentary where he explained that the new character, Cole Young, is akin to when the new Mortal Kombat games introduce new fighters. So I'm curious as to what special abilities he'll have. Well, Jay Bling, I didn't hear that, but that's very reassuring to me because that's a surprise. They give us a new character, so he's a proxy for us, the audience. So he's going to take us into this world, and we're going to discover these things with him. So I'm sure when he discovers his powers, we will discover his abilities as well, and that'll be fun. Hopefully he's a great character, and we're on his side. I mean, I know I would want to be on his side because I wouldn't want to be on the opposite side of him, whatever his powers are. GQ says, hi, Gio. This is probably way too personal, and you don't have to answer. When you decided a few years ago to work from home on YouTube before Super Chats nor Stream Elements, how did you think you were going to make money? Well, I can answer that, having my own YouTube channel. Tips and Super Chats are good, but a lot of revenue from a YouTube channel comes from the ads. So, I mean, you don't make a lot of money on the ads necessarily, depending on how much material that you crank out. But with the amount and the length of the shows and the amount of shows and things that we do, ad revenue is a big part of what you make on YouTube. So when you see ads on YouTube, the creators don't get very much. But if people watch your channel and your analytics are high, you can also make money doing that as well. So it's all very interesting. But, you know, I look at that. People always ask me about that. Even friends of mine are like, hey, sir, how do you make money on YouTube? And then there's been people that get mad about, like, are you panhandling on the internet? And I'm like, no, you know what? You pay if you go to a concert for 2 hours and you watch your favorite band, you pay for that. And I think that while we don't demand it, we're not behind paywalls. The fact that people value the content, I think, is important. You know, and if you like, I mean, as John will tell you, working on having a YouTube channel is a lot of work. I mean, it's hard. Try it. Try getting in front of a camera and talking for a couple hours. It's really hard. I had a friend of mine. I told him, I said, you know, I thought he had an interesting area of expertise, and I said, you should do a YouTube channel, man. And he did it for a day. He's like, I can't do this. I don't know how you do it. And I said, well, it's not easy. And he goes, I don't want to do it. And I said, okay, well, now maybe you can have a Clubhouse membership. Like there's the new app Clubhouse, and you can go in there. That's kind of burning things up. It's interesting. But yeah, it's still work. And John, I have to tell you, from my own personal opinion, GQ, John busts his ass on his channel. There's a lot of work he does. I think if you look at how his show looks, I think it's really slickly produced. He's always trying to get the best camera and sound equipment possible. And I really admire him for that. So he puts a lot of what he makes into the channel back into the channel as well. GQ goes on to say, I know Daniel Day-Lewis is the GOAT, but for me, it is Leo DiCaprio. Is that a problem? What do you think of him, and where do you put him? I love Leonardo DiCaprio as a performer. I think he's fantastic. I mean, it's Jordan Belfort in The Wolf of Wall Street. I mean, he goes from The Departed to Gangs of New York to The Wolf of Wall Street to Catch Me If You Can to Titanic to Shutter Island. He's great in Shutter Island. I think Leonardo DiCaprio is a wonderful, wonderful actor. And he's really diverse. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan. You know, again, I know John thinks that Daniel Day-Lewis is the GOAT, but I think Leonardo DiCaprio, there's something to be said for, I loved him in The Aviator when he played Howard Hughes. I think there's something to be said. He's been an actor. We've watched him grow up on the screen, and I think he's just terrific. So, you know, whether he's in Romeo and Juliet or Titanic, I don't care. I'll always watch Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm a huge fan. Jada's here. Sends in a tip and says, no question, just wanted to say thank you for your show. Having the John Campea Show during this time in Dallas helped give an escape with the disaster going on outside. Even without much power, I still keep up with the episodes. Keep it up, John. I appreciate this show. Well, Jada, thank you so much. It's very nice of you to say that. I'm sure I speak for John when I say we very much appreciate the support of the channel, and we want you and everyone you know and your family and friends hopefully will stay safe in this crazy weather time in Texas, and it's very much appreciated that we're here to keep you company. You know, it's funny, I never thought when I was on YouTube doing movie pundit shows that people would tell us that, my God, you've kept me sane during a time of crisis, and I'm like, wow, that seems like a lot of responsibility. I'm glad people feel that way about the shows. I mean, I really do. It's very flattering to hear that, so thank you for that, and stay safe. War Doctor 10 says, hi, John and Rob. So there's a fan debate going on online. Who is the best archer between Green Arrow, Katniss, Hawkeye, and Legolas? Who do you think is the best of those four? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. Okay, I got to tell you. I think it's Hawkeye, Green Arrow, Legolas, and Katniss in that order. That's what I think. That's there you go. Only because I think Hawkeye, you know, he's a professional. Green Arrow is self-taught. Legolas is an elf, so he probably has some kind of superhuman powers. But I don't think he's had to do as many difficult things as Hawkeye and Green Arrow have had to do, because in Middle-earth, they don't have the kind of diversity of missions that they would have in our real world. And then Katniss Everdeen, she's again, she hunts and she's a good archer, but she's not a professional archer. It's not part of her job. You know, she grew up hunting with a bow. She was a bow hunter as a kid, but I don't think she's ever going to go into a war situation and could be as good as Legolas, Hawkeye, or Green Arrow. But I could be wrong. Ryan Lohner said, I've reached the point where all the big movies from my childhood are turning 30. This year, that includes Terminator 2, Hook, Beauty and the Beast, City Slickers, Thelma and Louise, and the last big Oscar winner to date, the last big 5 Oscar winner to date, Silence of the Lambs. Man, Ryan, you make me feel so old. Yeah, wow. Terminator 2 is going to be 30. Isn't that weird? Because once these movies come out and they become timeless classics, timeless genre classics, it's not like they're not going to go anywhere. You know, it's not like someday you're going to be like, nah, Terminator 2 is not that good anymore. Terminator 2 is a stone cold, straight up classic. And to know it's aging, it's like, oh my God. I don't even want to tell you how many movies have passed that mark for me. Ooh, I'm old. Maelstrom sends in a tip and says, I was looking at the global subscription numbers for HBO, and it looks to be around 120 million. Once HBO Max goes live globally using WB Funny Math, HBO Max subscriptions could be reported at 120 million, making it the number 2 streaming service. Oh, I think HBO Max will be the number 2 streaming service. I don't know how long it's going to take to get there, but Netflix passed 200 million, so it's got a long way to go. We shall see. Brian Meadows sends in a tip and says, I don't remember if anyone brought this up, but did anyone notice back in episode 6 of WandaVision that while one of the kids broke the fourth wall, Pietro looked directly at him and looked confused, like he knew that fourth wall breaking was happening? Oh, I think, Brian, that he did. I think he did know that fourth wall breaking was happening. Absolutely he did. The show's crazy. And I don't, again, I want to understand, how does Pietro know? Is he not Pietro Maximoff? I don't know. I just don't know. And I want to know. But hopefully we'll find out. I can't believe we have to wait another week. Damn it. Ross B in the house. Hey, John. What was, wow, that was a big episode, but I have 2 lingering questions. Where are the kids? And why was Agatha projecting the Evan Peters Quicksilver and not the Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver? Ross, those are some big questions there, buddy. I'm not sure that we know the answers. Did she turn them into bugs and a bunny? I don't know. Something happened. And I think my biggest question is, yes, why is the Evan Peters Quicksilver there? We don't know. Aiden sends in a tip and says, hey, John, was wondering if you think we'll get a version of Ultron in the show. The character has been mentioned quite a bit in the show, which makes me believe he'll have some sort of an appearance. Thanks again. Aiden, I would love nothing more than to see Ultron in the show, but I just don't know, man. I don't know if we're going to get Ultron. Maybe. People say, hey, what's Ultron? I don't think that's necessarily the case, but the show's so bonkers anyway. I mean, even if, Agatha Harkness, we don't know. Next week's episode has to be the flashback episode. It has to be. We've got to get the 8th episode has got to be how all of this happened. So it's all going to be backstory, kind of like episode 4 was. Because we have to know. There's so many questions, and then 9 will be the big showdown or whatever it is that is going to happen. Nerdy Teacher, a Patreon member, sends in a tip, 1 of 2. Hi, John. So I've got a legal dilemma. I live in France where HBO Max doesn't exist. There's a certain movie coming out on March 18th. What might that movie be? And not being a patient man, there's no way I'm waiting for the French release. Piracy is illegal. No question there. Well, I have a friend who lives in Germany that uses a VPN, and he does pay for HBO Max, and he's able to watch it. Now, I'm not condoning that kind of behavior, but if you are going to use a VPN, you still have to pay for the service, and you might be able to do that. I don't know. Sometimes they can tell if your credit card doesn't go to an American bank or something, they won't let you. But here's the thing. I'll tell you something. I was in Israel with a film I'd made back in 2005. It was the greatest. I loved it. It was in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem. I loved being there. But a lot of the Israelis would ask me, like, I was there showing a film of mine, and they're like, do you have a problem with piracy? And I said, look, if you guys can't get things commercially in your country, well, that's not on you. That's on someone else. And if you want to see media, and this was 16 years ago, and if you want to see media, then, well, you got to do what you got to do. Look, I don't believe in piracy, but if you're paying for things, even if you're using a VPN, I'd be like, well, because you want HBO Max. So I'm not condoning doing bad things, but this is going to be one of the most pirated things ever on the internet, and they know it. And so if you can't get it legally, well, then if there's other means. But I don't know what their home video release is going to be either. We should see what that's going to be like too. Nerdy Teacher goes on to say, but what if I used a VPN to subscribe to HBO Max? I'd be paying for the content I shouldn't have access to in my country. Would that be a better legal solution? Thanks for your thoughts and have a great day. I forgot you get 2 questions. Yes, Nerdy Teacher. Look, you're using a VPN and you're paying. In my mind, that's not piracy. You're still paying HBO Max. And I have a friend in Germany who's doing the same thing. As a matter of fact, he had like 10 people over to watch Wonder Woman 84. And you're paying for it. That's not piracy. Simply because if HBO Max isn't available in your country, but you have another alternative and you're paying for the service, then I don't see a problem with that at all. I really don't. Because you're still paying for it, which means you're a subscriber, which is what they want. Vision Stole My Girl Jen tipped $7. One of my friends would never watch an old-timey looking show like WandaVision, but he was already glued on episodes 1 and 2 on his own. Grateful to Marvel for taking the chance. Personally felt this show had the most potential to alienate fans. You know what Vision Stole My Girl? I was like, I think they were supposed to lead with Falcon and Winter Soldier, and that would have been a sure bet. By the way, it looks great. I can't wait to watch it. And I think the fact that they ended up leading with WandaVision, let's hope it sticks the landing. I think it's going to. The next 2 episodes are going to be crucial. I hope they don't ruin the whole thing. And like John was saying on his stream tonight, or this afternoon, his spoiler stream, he was hoping that it didn't have a conventional ending. I don't think it will. But, yeah, I mean, I think this show did have the most potential to alienate fans, and I think it hasn't. And if anything, it's gained new fans. People are like, wow. But then again, I think it's going to depend on how it looks at the end when all is said and done. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, well, John, you called it. Agnes looked straight at the camera and said, I'm Agatha Harkness. Still a little disappointed they did not show the engineer. I don't think Colonel Goodner was the engineer Monica called. Oh, I think we're going to meet that engineer. We just haven't met them yet. Yeah, but I loved it. And I don't know if you guys saw that somebody already did a heavy metal version of the Agatha Harkness song. I put it on my Twitter feed. I thought it was hilarious. He heard the song and he just went in and recorded it and played all the parts. It was pretty dope. It's on YouTube, like the I'm Agatha Harkness, or it was me or something, whatever she said. So yeah. But I think we're going to get another engineer. Mark Amorosi sends in a tip and says, hey, John, do you think the book we saw in Wanda's basement was the Darkhold? I don't. And if so, how did Agatha come into possession of it? I don't. But, I mean, again, I wouldn't put it past them. I have no idea. Obviously, Agatha Harkness has never been a part of the MCU. She's never even been alluded to as far as I know. She's obviously a big part of the comics and a big part of Wanda Maximoff's history. But this is all new, and they're introducing supernatural elements here and strange elements, which is going to, of course, lead into things like Morbius, which is obviously over at Sony. But Doctor Strange is going to have, I'm sure, more supernatural elements. And then, of course, they have to bring in Blade. So I think there's a lot going on here that they're setting up for the MCU moving forward. I just, it's hard to know what's going to happen. And I don't know how Agatha I don't know how Agatha even got in there. Like, it showed her, according to her own opening, the hex was already there, and she shows up in witch form and then transforms. And she was in witch form when she got in, so it's kind of odd. Like, how did that work? Did Wanda know she came in? Was she transmuted, or was she immune because of her own magic? It's going to be interesting to see. James Dobinson sends in a tip and says, so the opening credits were all Wanda, but by the end of the episode, we know 100% nod to Anne that Wanda is being played. Looks like Wanda isn't going to be the antagonist for Doctor Strange 2 after all, unless WandaVision sends her completely over the edge. Well, I think that could happen with the kids. I think she is being set up to do a heel turn in some way, shape, or form. And only, I go back to the comics for that too, because that's right out of the comic book. So it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. But we shall see. James Dobinson goes on to say, Elizabeth Olsen is awesome. Only bit that was about to annoy me was Vision talking to the camera, but then he said exactly what I was thinking. Why am I doing this? I love that. Also, looks like Monica is getting her powers in WandaVision rather than in Captain Marvel 2. Oh, she's absolutely already got them. Now I want to know who's filming. That was who was the voice behind the camera. That was really interesting. As a former DVD special features and Blu-ray special features producer, well, not former, I did this last year. I was like, who is that? And why are they doing interviews? Like, who's the cameraman? I was like, whoa. And then they showed Agatha as she was a camera person as well. So there was some crazy stuff going on in this episode. I'm like, what's happening? I don't know. Elijah sends in a tip. I guess it's one of two or three. John, I'm starting to figure stuff out. As soon as I saw that Nexus comm, I got to sleuthing. Nexus beings, are ones who are able to affect time and the future with powers, thereby affecting the multiverse. They are watched over by the TVA vigilantly. That would be the Time Authority, right? Stay with me for a second. According to the Marvel Universe, Wanda is a Nexus being. Only one Nexus being can exist on a parallel world in a multiverse, and they are the node, think an electrode for electricity, of mystic energy on their world. Oh, I'm liking where this is going, Elijah. There also can be more than one Nexus being on the same plane of reality at a time. There can't be more than one Nexus being on the same plane of reality at the same time. For another Nexus being to be present, he has to exist as an apparition. With the big reveal, I think Pietro is the apparition for the big bad, and they are siphoning off Wanda's magic. Bruh. Back to my TVA mention. The cameo we're going to see is going to be Loki. We know that whatever is going on with Loki, he becomes head of the TVA somehow. Also far-fetched, but he joined a call with Paul talking about coming back from the dead in Marvel for a one-episode cameo for Tom H. To pop and give a helping hand randomly, it would be a big surprise for us, and it could serve as Loki and the TVA's eventual way into our timeline, since we know he comes back to ours eventually. Also, Nexus lore says that Nexus beings can create powerful offspring, cites Wanda's kids as an example, leads me to believe they're real. Also, Vision is talking to a proctor and gets upset, but when he leaves, he was in the van still. Interviews in their mind. Ooh, you know what, Elijah? I'm here for that, buddy. I think you have really stumbled onto something there. I think Loki being in the show, this would make sense with the Nexus lore. And Loki being it's not our Loki, it's Loki from a different quantum realm. This is really fascinating. I think you're really onto something here. Wow. Okay. That's very interesting. Nicely done, sir. Seth L. says, "Hey, John, I've been with you since the movie blog days, and I completely understand your X-Actor Y role stance, but I would lose my mind if Ryan Reynolds secretly shows up as Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat, since the director softly called him out for the role." I would love that. I mean, wouldn't that be great? And that's something he would do. And he'd make a Mint Mobile joke. But I think that would be, I would love to see that. That would be fantastic. Anonymous says, "Hey, John and company, I have a feeling that Billy and Tommy are fragments of Mephisto and that he and Agnes are going to use Wanda to cut a deal to create the Soul Stone and you can have your kids back. After all, Feige is creating the Young Avengers." Thoughts? I think, well, in the comic, Speed and Wiccan are, in fact, fragments of Mephisto. I think that definitely could be part of it. I don't know about the Soul Stone, although I do like that idea that the Soul Stone has a mind of its own and somehow it's manifesting itself or something. I think you're onto that, though. There's a little bit of that I think, I don't know if it's going to be do that or you can have your kids back, but I think it's something along those lines. I really do. Tony Rodriguez says, "Hey, John, you were wondering who or what the creepy guy was behind Wanda in the Halloween episode. Well, it's just a statue. I emailed you pics detailing it. There are actually two on both sides of the walkway. I hope you got the email." Well, Tony, I don't know if John did get the email, but I'd like to thank you anyway for taking that kind of effort and sending that to John. That was above and beyond, and we definitely appreciate that kind of interactivity with our viewers because, look, I'm all for being corrected or people sending me things, information that I don't know that helps me understand something better. So thank you very much for doing that. Qui-Gon Gin and Tonic. I got my Qui-Gon hot toy today. Shh. Don't tell Elizabeth. John, I've gone down the rabbit hole in preparation for the new Mortal Kombat. I rewatched the Mortal Kombat Classic and the sequel. Then I delved into the fan film Rebirth and finally the web series Legacy. The latter two are decent. I know the difference between... I know the difference between a film score and a soundtrack. However, the original Mortal Kombat blurs the distinction between the two. How would you define them both? That's interesting. The new trailer has been my favorite trailer of the past few years. Yes, it has a bit of fan service. Get over here. But we deserve it. We don't need this to be spectacular, just good enough. I love that a lot of the actors have various backgrounds in martial arts films. Scorpion is in The Raid, Kung Lao is in Jackie Chan's stunt team, etc. The choreography of Scorpion's fighting from the trailer was epic. I hope that we see that sort of fighting as opposed to over-the-top slow-motion scenes. Finally, an homage to the original Metal soundtrack would be great. Picture this. The beginning of Metallica's Ride the Lightning blasts while Sub-Zero takes out a few of those SWAT team fools. In all seriousness, who's your favorite Mortal Kombat character and what fan service moment would you like in the film? Thanks for your patience with my long post. Well, Qui-Gon Gin and Tonic, thank you for your long post. I have to say I've always been myself. I've always been partial to Sub-Zero, and I gotta say that so far my favorite movie moment in 2021 is when Sub-Zero freezes the blood and uses it as a spike to deliver the fatal blow. I mean, that was to me. I went, oh! I stopped the trailer and watched that back again. I'm like, come on, man, that was so good. But, I think, you have an interesting question, like the difference between a soundtrack. So in movies, there's two different kinds. There's different kinds of music. Like, first of all, there's something called diegetic music or sound. Diegetic is something that's happening on screen. So if someone's playing a radio or there's a symphony playing, there's a literal music source that's in the picture that you're watching. Diegetic sound. Then there is, of course, your score. Your music score, like what Hans Zimmer does or John Williams does. They're scoring the music. Then there is what are called source cues, which is a music cue. A source cue is from like an outside source, like a metal song, like Ride the Lightning. So Ride the Lightning would be a source cue that would play over a scene, but it's not diegetic because it's not in the scene. But it works like soundtrack music. It just happens to be a source cue from outside that we're using because Ride the Lightning is a badass song to stage a fight scene to. but that wouldn't necessarily be your original score. The original score is music that's composed directly for the film. Now, interestingly enough, someone like Quentin Tarantino, most of his music that he uses in his film is either diegetic, meaning that it's coming from like a radio or a car or something, or he's using source cues. He doesn't usually have a composer score his movies. The Hateful Eight was scored by Ennio Morricone, so that was something new for him. But it's different. So a source cue is different than a soundtrack. It's different than what's called score. So let me go back to here we go. The 50-year-old soldier sends in a tip 1 or 2. In a companion video, you said heroes would say, I died. You said heroes would say, I died like a chump in the street. I have to disagree. Quotes from Medal of Honor winners are often, I did what anyone would do, or I was just doing my job. Let's see. Maybe your answer, you went on to say, the villains think making the sacrifice play is stupid because no one's life is more important than theirs. I think that's a really good point to make, 50-year-old soldier. Soldiers are, like you said, Medal of Honor winners are just doing their jobs. I mean, I think the life of a soldier, one of my best friends is a Green Beret, and he's doing the job that he signed on to do. It was his choice to go into the military, and he was a medic, and now he's an ER doctor. And every day he goes in and fights the good fight to save people's lives. He was saving people's lives as a soldier. Now he's saving people's lives as a doctor. And I don't think that if you asked him why he does it or does he deserve any accolades, he would say just what 50-year-old soldier said, which is, I did what anyone would do. I was doing my job. I think you're absolutely right about that. Kevin Rubio's here. Kevin Rubio says, maybe the real Mephisto were the friends we made along the way. That could be, Kevin. That could be. Jedi Master sends in a tip and says, OMFG. I was just going to say, oh my fucking God. So in WandaVision, Monica's contact was a nobody. Agatha has been controlling Wanda, etc. So I'm assuming it's Aggie feeding on Yo Magic. But isn't the implication from the ads that she'll die if that stops? Really happy this wasn't overcomplicated with Mephisto that we know yet. I think there's a lot more to this than we actually know, and we're going to find out what all that is next week. That's why they ended it with that our little ditty and the bit with Monica. I think they're going to give us a flashback episode, and most of the episode is going to be we're going to see what happened from the end of the blip, or when everybody was reconstituted, to where we are in the series now. That's what I think. Live and Spiral sent in a tip and says, I love the MCU, but there's a lot of wasted potential, cast use, powers, etc. With the movie's popularity usurping the comics, I think they should use this platform to create original characters that can be adapted into comics later, kind of like Harley Quinn. I see what you're saying there. I think you're onto something, that they're going to create new characters, but the thing is, they already have this rich legacy, decades worth of storytelling material. So it's not like they're starting from scratch. What's really difficult is to create something from scratch and make it work. What I think the genius of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is they already have all of these characters, and so they're using it for inspiration, and then they tweak them as they see fit to fit within the confines of the Marvel Universe, which I think is great. But I understand what you're saying. Harley Quinn came out of Batman the Animated Series, I believe, right? And then it went into comics and things like that. So it's not a bad idea, but right now they've got such a rich legacy of characters that they're using, and I think that's what's made the universe so successful. But that doesn't mean that they can't bring in new characters, although I just think that their older characters, their legacy characters, are the ones that everyone's excited about using. Mr. Intellectual sends in a tip and says, you and I know that movies are subjective. I disagree with that. Should a college professor be fired for teaching them that movies are objective? I say yes. It's not a free speech issue. It's about doing your job. All right, I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this one, but here's the thing. I don't believe that whether a movie is good or not is necessarily subjective. It's subjective whether a person likes that movie or not, or whether that movie appeals to a person, but that doesn't mean the movie itself is good or bad. I think that if you look at, say, the AFI's top 100 films, I think that there are things, I think this is true of all art. I think there is an objective greatness to art. Now, that whether we recognize it or whether, see, the thing is, all storytelling, whether it's movies or television or whatever, is dealing with the best stories deal with human truths. And we recognize in the way characters act or certain situations, it all relates back to real life in some way, shape, or form. All stories have to be anchored sufficiently in reality for us to buy into them and understand if they're true or authentic or real. And I think that the best movies, whether it's Citizen Kane or Lawrence of Arabia or Vertigo or any of these films, they have an objective greatness to them. Now, John always says, well, Rob, how are you supposed to measure that? Well, we've never tried to even that's something maybe when we have deep learning AI, we can have a definitive answer to that question. But I think because we're human beings and we're locked into our corporeal existence, that there are truths that are contained in the great stories that resonate beyond, look, somebody might not be interested in a science fiction movie, so they'll tune out. So they don't understand that 2001 is a great movie, or they don't understand The Empire Strikes Back is a great movie because they don't, subjectively for them, they're just not interested in science fiction movies. But that doesn't mean the movie is good or bad. But I think that movies aren't necessarily subjective. It's people's opinions of the movie that are subjective. So I don't think it's a free speech issue. I don't think it's about doing your job. I think it's a conversation worth having. But your mileage may vary. Dacky sends in a tip and says, hey, John, I love the episode of WandaVision, but was let down by the reveal of the engineer. I was like, why did they hype it up like that? But then I thought, what if we, the viewers, overhyped it? Also, I love the Agnes part. I don't think we've met the engineer yet. I don't think so. So we'll see. We saw that vehicle was a sword. It was sword equipment. It wasn't the engineer. It was sword operatives that brought it there. Double B Studios sends in a tip and says, big IFFF, but if Rian Johnson comes back to do Star Wars, I think he could make a good story. I wasn't a fan of The Last Jedi because of what he did to Luke. If you take The Last Jedi and make it a solo film and replace Luke with a new character, that's interesting. The story of a broken Jedi and path to redemption works by replacing Luke with another character, and the story works as a separate story. Where Lucas film screwed up was they put Luke in the wrong story, in the wrong portrayal, and Johnson's story could fit another Jedi. You know what? I like that, man. I think that you're absolutely right about that. I will give it up to that for you. I think that's very true. Chris 1529 sends in a tip and says, do you think the recent bump at China's box office will have any impact on movies like Black Widow and Disney keeping their theatrical release date? Very possibly. China is a huge market for the MCU, and if theaters are open and they stay open in China, well then, I think that it could. I think COVID cases are dropping. They're talking about things getting back to normal. We'll have to see how that goes. We don't know yet, but I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic. Paths Unwritten says, what's the big deal of a Luke Skywalker level cameo? Not shocking. He's the main character appearing during the time in universe he was most active. Luke appearing in Mandalorian seems the same as Tony Stark appearing in Black Widow before he dies. Well, yeah, but nobody was expecting it. You know, I think that was, in universe it makes sense, but nobody thought that he would actually show up. And I think that's what they're talking about. At least it is kind of to me. But I think Tony Stark probably will show up in Black Widow. And I think a lot more people will show up in Black Widow than just Tony Stark, too. RPG with DBJ sends in a tip and says, I hope the WandaVision creative team puts in work on a ton of other IP at Disney. I do not want them wasted on a forced WandaVision season 2. You know what? I don't think they're going to do a WandaVision season 2 necessarily. I think all of these shows, I think WandaVision is going to be a standalone story unto itself. And, we'll see, because they're all part of a larger tapestry. So, I mean, they could obviously do a second season, but I think it would have to be very, very different. They've got too many different shows to make. They're going to make shows and keep introducing shows and expand the universe. I don't see them going back to doing these. I think they're going to spin off these characters back into another movie, then maybe back out of something else. Gambit59 says, "Hi, John. New here and love your content. Dumb question." There are no dumb questions. "How does Warner Brothers HBO Max quantify profit when dropping new movies? If I sign up for HBO Max, I get all the available content on the channel. Example, The Sopranos. With Zack Snyder's Justice League, how do they determine profits?" Well, that's really interesting. They don't really announce numbers and things like that, but I think they're correlating, like, and again, I might be talking out of my bunghole like right now, but I would assume that they carve out a certain percentage of what everything, the number of viewers, however many viewers watch something, and part of their whatever those viewers mean in terms of their, like, okay, if you have 100 million subscribers, and say let's say 75% of them, so 75 million subscribers, watched Zack Snyder's Justice League the month it's released. So your 75 million subscribers have paid a certain amount of money, so you know how many subscriptions there are, and how much money has been paid. So if that's 75 million, what does it cost? 50. So you're talking about $1 billion. And I think based on the number of people that watch, they take some kind of a percentage out of the subscription price that people are paying per month, and calculating against how many people watched versus how much something cost. And then that's how they keep doing that. So, and also the number of subscribers. For instance, if they have a jump in subscriptions because more people want to see Zack Snyder's Justice League, they can kind of correlate when these people subscribed and seeing, did those people actually watch? Like, they probably have the analytics down. They can see exactly who watched and can figure out, based on viewership, was it worth it? Based on how much something cost against how many people watched it against how much was paid for a subscription. I think something along those lines. I mean, I'm sure I'm oversimplifying it, but something along those lines, maybe. Daryl Best Wadley sends in a tip and says, "I'm in a funk, John. All my shows are ending this year. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Black Lightning, Mom, Superstore, and I feel Blackish is next. I need therapy. Next year, I'll have nothing to watch." Well, the great thing, Daryl, about all that is that it allows you to jump in and explore new shows. You didn't say The Boys. Are you not watching The Boys? But there's so many great things out there. You can go exploring. And I would look, don't be in a funk. Look at it as an opportunity to broaden your horizons and find the next Brooklyn Nine-Nine that, I mean, I know there's not something exactly like that, but something similar maybe. Super Quoker 9000 says, "First time tipper. Been watching you religiously since I found your channel during this year's Disney live stream. You're awesome, and thank you for your hard work. Is it me? But how come no one has asked about Vision being chopped up at Sword Labs? Isn't Vision made up of vibranium?" Very good question, Super Quoker. I don't know. I mean, it was really interesting. How did he get there? What were they doing with him? What kind of experiments? Did they know anything? Did they get his schematics from Stark? I mean, who knows? I think we're going to find out, and we're going to find out next episode of WandaVision, and I think you're asking definitely the right questions. You Forgot the Kid tipped and said, "Why do people have a problem with the Waynes getting shot in every Batman movie? I love it. New set of parents, new angles of getting shot, different kid getting traumatized. It's my jam. I made a compilation to watch before bed each night. My ASMR." Well, You Forgot the Kid. That's pretty hilarious. I mean, I don't know what that says about you psychologically, that you like to watch different versions of the Waynes being executed in succession, but I do like the fact that you think that way. I want to watch your compilation. You should throw that shit up on YouTube. I would watch that. Actually, how many times between all the animated shows, the movies, it would be interesting. Does your compilation include every time Wayne's parents get killed? Like in flashbacks and like, I would love to see that. Although you'd have to do some real research. Johnny Vu says, longtime fan, went to Hess Street Public School as a kid. You have really shaped who I am as a movie fan. I've worked on a feature film, 2 shorts, and a miniseries since that Man of Steel review. Keep on inspiring, John. Congrats on the move, brother. Johnny, that's very nice of you to say. I know you're not saying it to me, but what a cool thing. I mean, I love hearing that our work has in any way, shape, or form inspired people, whether to start their own YouTube channels or make their own movies. I mean, I think it's fantastic. So congratulations on that, sir. And I'm sure John will watch this, so he'll know that you thanked him on the move or congratulated him on the move. Anthony M. sends a tip and says, hey, John, notice how the hex look like a house from the outside, i.e. House of M? Also, I think Nexus in the commercials is referencing in Age of Ultron, Tony went there to bait Ultron with a broadcast signal. Thoughts? That's interesting, but I really like the theory earlier in the stream about a Nexus being in the MCU. I think that's really interesting. But again, it could all come back, just like you said. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, hey, John, I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and never been fussed that you don't. In fact, I normally roll my eyes when people get pissed about it. But it's kind of jarring when you call it a bag of shit literally every time you mention it. Can you just say the name? You know what? I gotta go with you on that one, Anonymous. You know, there were people, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there was some good stuff in there. You know, it wasn't an MCU movie. It was fun. I think it deserves respect. John, no more calling. Don't call Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a bag of shit. Come on. Some people like it. Anonymous liked it. Playmaker sends in a tip and says, I'm wondering how S.W.O.R.D. was able to retrieve Vision's body from Wakanda. It's highly unlikely they'd let an American organization come into their country and take his body. He's also not property of the U.S. government. Good point, Playmaker. I don't know, and I think we're going to find out. They've got to answer. There's so many unanswered questions in WandaVision. I think they know that, and we're going to see exactly what happened in Episode 8. I think it's going to fill in a lot of questions about how did we get here? This is not my beautiful Hex. This is not my beautiful life, you know. Luke, I'm your plumber, sends in a tip, 1 of 2. So a few nights a week, I'll go into the garage and drink a few beers and tinker around on stuff, and I'll have my little TV on just for noise in the background. And so the other night, after a show on Hulu went off, I saw The Rock had his own show called Young Rock. So I figured I'd give it a try. After about 10 minutes, I had to shut it off and go into the house and watch it on the big TV. It was pretty good. A lot better than I thought it would be. Hopefully, you'll give it a try. Thanks, and have a great day. So for those of you who don't know, yes, The Rock, as in Dwayne The Rock Johnson, has an autobiographical show about his whole life. Like, how did he become The Rock? And it starts out with him being a kid. You see various parts of his life. I haven't seen the show. I've just seen a number of commercials on it, and I have to say, it looks kind of delightful. You're the first person that I've heard from that has watched this show. So if it made you go inside to watch it on the big screen, that gives me hope. I wanted to tune into it. I know it's a network show, but it looks pretty good. So I would watch it. Yeah. So thanks for writing in for that. Wukai Podcast says, been with you since 2013 and watched daily. I also became a voice actor in 2013. Ooh, congratulations. And decided summer of last year to start a podcast. Our listenership has grown in the last 6 months, and we just started our YouTube presence. Thank you for the inspiration, sir. Well, it's always nice, as I was saying earlier, it's always nice to hear from people that are inspired to go off on their own and create things on their own after watching the show. That's my favorite thing in life to hear. So, yeah. Congratulations. Good luck. Keep going. It's a grind on YouTube, but make it happen. Just grind it out. But John sends in a tip. Deadpool 3 opens with Mr. Poole sitting on his couch with a completed Infinity Gauntlet and says, this is a lame reality. Let's mix it up. Snaps and integrates mutants into the MCEU. Cue montage of history and civil unrest. You're welcome, Kevin. Yeah, I don't think they would do that, but I could see it. That would be kind of funny to do in a Deadpool movie. I just think that, I like the idea that mutants have always been here. We just haven't heard their story yet. I'm leaning more toward that. I think that's the way they're going to take it. Hey, John, been enjoying your videos lately and admire your work ethic, man. Keep up the great work, and your labor is not in vain. Well, you're welcome, Comic Court. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you told that to John, and I know you didn't know I was going to be here or not, but I'm going to accept it. I'm going to accept your nice wishes and say thank you, because we work hard. Alan sends in a tip and says, "Hi, John. One anime series that I have always wanted to see in live action is Gundam. If Pacific Rim Black, the animated Netflix series, and other properties like Last of Us, Uncharted, and even Sonic 2 are good, does that help its chances? I would love it." Bruh. Alan, I am a huge Gundam fan. I want to see the Universal Century continuity brought into live action. I have to tell you, even though it was only Ready Player One, how much did I salivate seeing the RX-782 going into battle, to do battle. I'm like, oh my God, a live action Gundam movie would be so awesome. Seeing the Red Comet fight, come on, in a Zabi, oh, I would love that. I'd love it. I want to go to Japan and see that full-size Gundam that comes out and walks. Tony Rodriguez sends in a tip and says, "Gotta say, John, I was wrong in my tip Thursday on February 18th about WandaVision being 1 hour, but my Agnes is short for Agatha Harkness. My question is, why for so long did you fight that all the facts leading there was right and the engineer was a letdown?" I don't think we met the engineer yet. I guess because everybody knew it was Agatha Harkness, that it wasn't much of a surprise. And when it turned out to be that, it was kind of like, oh, well, sure it was. Because it wasn't necessarily, the most surprising thing in the world. Russell Amador says, "Hey, John, after the obvious was revealed that Agnes is indeed Agatha, we can now move forward with whatever mysteries lie ahead. The pendant, the name, the costume, it was obvious. It's like that the multiple choice question that's so easy that you question it." You're right. I mean, I think who else was it going to be? Everyone knew it was her. I mean, it fit into her the whole history of Wanda Maximoff and Scarlet Witch and Agatha Harkness in the comics. So, of course it would be her. But how is it her? Like, she came out of nowhere. She hasn't been part of the MCU before, so what the heck is going on? So, it's going to be interesting to find out what the heck's going on, because I don't know. Matrix 21 sends in a tip and says, "Hi, John. Been a fan since 2013. First time asking a question. What comic book character that hasn't been portrayed in film or TV would you most want to see finally get a show or movie? Thanks, and bring on the filthy." Well, for those of you who've been watching me for any length of time, you know the answer to that is Moon Knight, and we are getting it. We are getting it. I am deliriously excited for Moon Knight. I can't wait to see it. The filmmakers behind The Endless and Resolution and Spring and the recent Synchronic are here doing it, and I can't wait to see it. So that was my dream. When I was in high school, I wrote a Moon Knight screenplay. I did, based on his origin, and then also issue 25, the Black Spectre issue. I combined the two. So it wasn't very good, but I did. So yeah, there you go. And yeah. So I can't wait. That's what I'm getting. And Matrix question, what a good question to end on. I want to thank you all for hanging out with me. I want to end this show by saying thank you to John Campea for letting me do these streams, and thank you for you, the viewers, for allowing me to do these streams. Apparently we have fun together. I like doing them. And I just want to thank you for supporting the John Campea Show. And remember, John Campea's new movie, the documentary movie Trailers a Love Story, which I help with, is available both on Amazon and on Vimeo throughout the rest of the world. So check it out if you haven't already. You can find me on my YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations. And you can find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett. Find me on, did I say Twitter? Burnett RM. You can also, if you look around, I have a film that I produced and edited called Tango Shalom that is playing right now. It's playing at the Charlotte International Jewish Film Festival, but it's going to be playing all across the country. And so look out for that. And, of course, the Netflix animated series that I was editing on, Dota, Dragon's Blood, debuts on on March 25th on Netflix. So if you're a Dota fan, check it out. I've worked on that series for the last 2 years. Once again, I want to thank you all, and we had a great time. So I'll see you on the next companion video.